All right. Thought I'd pop on after all the games are done now. As per usual, get quite a few questions in the inbox over the weekend about different injuries and stuff like that. So where I can, I'll try and jump on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and answer a couple of questions. So got it on Instagram and Twitter via two different devices because that's all I could figure out. But anyway, let's see how we go. So we'll run through. So probably, I guess the biggest one from the weekend, Jake Friend suffered a concussion. Look, not too much to analyse here in terms of. Unfortunately, you can't really predict what's going to happen moving forward. He's got obviously a pretty extensive recent history. So two concussions, sort of August, September last year. When in the NRL, if you suffer two concussions within the same season, you need to seek the advice of an independent specialist. So Friend did that. All the tests came back clear, which was good, but it was sort of, at the time they were like, if we suffer another one, it might be a bit concerning. So look, he technically hasn't suffered two in the same season here, suffering another one, but whether they still go down the path of doing sort of extra testing just because he's now had 3 in 6 months, it's one of those ones he could pass through all the testing and be right within 2 weeks. It'd be quite surprising if he played next week, and I think there's already reports looking like he's not going to be fit for next week, but moving forward, look, he could be right in 2 weeks' time. The Roosters, with their history, they could leave him. 6 weeks, they've done that with Cordner in the past. Obviously, he's sitting at a 12-week gap now, but Cordner, Keary, they've both sat out for extended periods when they've suffered concussions back-to-back. That's one to monitor. It's not really one that you can predict too heavily, unfortunately. And then look, the Roosters really copped it in the hooking department. Adam Keighran also suffered a dislocated wrist. The wrist, look, obviously the wrist, but you've got your two forearm bones that sort of come up here, and there's a whole bunch of little bones sort of at the base of the hand there that form the wrist joint. A lot of little ligaments in between those bones. They're quite firm, and really tight. So if any of those are quite loose, it can take a little bit of time to heal. Sometimes, it can be as little as sort of 4 to 6 weeks. We've seen some players sort of come back even at 3 weeks, but it's looking like for him, it's probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks. So probably they've done scans, obviously, and sort of seen he'll probably need a little bit more time for that ligament healing to occur. You don't want to go back before you've got a nice stable wrist, because if that wrist is unstable, you leave yourself to quite susceptible to further damage. It sounds like he doesn't need surgery though, because usually if you require surgery, you're going to have that extended period of time up to sort of that 3 month, even sometimes 4 month if it's really, really nasty. So they also won't get Verrills back next week by reports. He is at the end of his recovery from an ACL reco. He's sort of around that 9 months. The Roosters are being pretty adamant that they'll wait till 9 months for him to come back. So that's a good thing for his long-term prospects. It reduces his risk of re-injury quite significantly, about 50% per month between month 6 and month 9. So it's probably going to be at least around 3 to 4 before we see Verrill. So it looks like Freddie Lussick will be the hooker next week, unless Friend somehow passes through. What else have we got here? So, the Bronx, look, coming out of the game, I think there was quite a lot of concern for the Bronx that they'd have sort of 3 pretty significant injuries, but the good news is that they've all sort of come back, if not best case scenario, pretty close to. Obviously, the two concerning ones, Xavier Coates and John Asiata, they both suffered in sort of separate circumstances, and we'll run through it now. Effectively what you'd call a really bad burner in retrospect, and that's what it looked like at the time, but they went off for scans just to make sure there was no fractures or any damage there. I had a few questions over the weekend in terms of, look, it was pretty obvious how Coates injured himself, went down heavily on his head and sort of gapped between shoulder and head. The nerves that run from the neck down into the shoulder, down into the arm, they're the nerves that get affected with these burners, with these stingers. So he obviously significantly stretched those nerves, and that's where where you get the discomfort. Asiata, on the other hand, people are like, well, he got hit on this side and he was holding this arm. How is that possible? And it's actually looked quite common. One of the other common ways, and he's had recent history with those burners, is you cop a blow here, your head goes that way, and you pinch the nerves in through here. So it wasn't surprising to see him sort of holding that side, even though he got the blow to that side. And people wondering, why was it so significant? Look, when I'm talking to patients, I say it's like when you hit your funny bone. So that's an exposed nerve in your elbow. So it can be really quite sharp when you bang your funny bone. You go, oh, geez, that really kills, but it goes away quite quickly. And it's the same with stingers and burners, and that's why you'll see guys, if they cop a stinger or a burner, they're really holding that shoulder, but then almost a couple of minutes later they're good to go. Now obviously these guys, it was quite significant, so it probably wasn't that immediate that they sort of came good, but the good news is with those kind of injuries, as long as there's no significant structural damage, disc bulges in the neck or anything like that, usually they come good within 5 to 10 days. So it gives them a good chance of backing up for next week. If not next week, then the week after it'd probably be all good. And then Lodge, a minor hamstring strain. Look, that's what it looked like at the time. He tried to sort of run through it at one point. He almost suffered it sort of a few hit-ups before he came off. Felt for his hamstring, sort of went, no, I'm going to have one more run to see what it's like, and he had a run and couldn't keep going. So look, you've seen me post a million times about hamstring injuries before. It's really, really tough for players to come back within 7 days. There's a high re-injury rate. It's just really, really tough to come back within that week. So usually it's a 2-week return to play at minimum if there is a minor strain there. You can get some hamstring injuries where there's not a true strain, it's just some neural tightness or some fascia tightness, the casing around the muscle, and sometimes guys can push that a little bit more, but it sounds like in this case it is a true sort of minor strain, so he'll be looking at probably 1 to 2 weeks on the sideline. But look, coming out of the game, I mean, that's actually not such a bad result for the Bronx. And then the other burner was Tom Burgess. So another one, once again, look, he copped a blow. I think it was with him, it was the pinching. So once you've suffered a couple of burners, and I remember Wayne Bennett in the post-match presser, I think, said he'd had a couple of concerns, Tom, with burners in the past. And same with Asiata. Asiata, actually, there were reports that he's wearing a soft neck brace because he's had problems with burners. So once you've suffered a couple of burners, your nerve almost gets a bit more sensitive. So it makes it more susceptible to injury. It means those little innocuous blows, like you saw with Asiata, didn't take much to set off his nerve. And that's been the case with Burgess too. So it wasn't anything super obvious. He kind of, that's right, he landed on his shoulder and it kind of jarred up like that. Probably pinched in through there. But once again, those guys, look, should be a quick turnaround, but the unfortunate thing is because they've again aggravated that nerve, it just leaves them a bit more susceptible moving forward to further burners and also more severe symptoms when they do suffer the burner. Newcastle had a couple of injuries. Kurt Mann, he had an MCL in a bit of a weird circumstance. Usually you'll see guys cop a blow from the outside of their knee and their knee sort of collapse inwards. That'll stretch the MCL. That wasn't the case here. So what actually happened with Kurt here was he copped a direct blow to his MCL. So it was a knee-on-knee clash. Not the most common way to suffer like a true strain or a sprain or tear of the ligament. But if it is significant enough, which it sounds like this was, because he actually tried to continue playing, but said he felt some instability in his knee, and the MCL is obviously really important for that side-to-side stability. If you keep going on the field with instability, you leave yourself at risk of further injury to other ligaments, other structures within the knee. So it was good that he came off. He'll go for scans. Look, it sounds like at least a partial tear. There was instability there. You're more than likely going to have a partial tear. That'd be 3 to 6 weeks. If it's a complete tear, which would be crazy for a direct blow, but stranger things have happened. Thankfully, MCLs don't require surgery very often, so it's usually 6 to 10 weeks. It is 6 to 10 weeks. Would be longer if there was surgery, but thankfully he can usually avoid it. Bradman Best was another one for the night, so he came off. Look, that was a bit of a weird one. He kind of was limping around for a while. There didn't seem anything too obvious. I went back through the film, and then he did cop a bit of a heavy blow to his ankle while he was scoring a try. That was your typical syndesmosis, high ankle sprain injury mechanism. So it was where the tackler landed on his foot, it twisted his foot to the outside, so that's called external rotation, and that's pretty common for a high ankle sprain. Look, they are tough to sort of come back from, even if it's a minor sprain. You usually see guys miss at least a week or two. It is one of those things. I've moved away from trying to predict the severities of high ankle sprains just from like how players react to them. Like Bradman Best here, for example, like he was able to play through it for a while. He strapped it up, sort of kept going, and usually you'd go, yeah, look, that's a good sign. He was able to play through. But we've seen in recent years guys like Kieran Foran played an entire game, Val Holmes played an entire game with syndesmosis injuries that ended up requiring surgery. So these guys are, really, really tough nuggets, and each player deals with pain differently. So it's one of those ones where, yes, like I would usually say it's a good sign that he was able to sort of, play through it for a little bit, but it's one to monitor, and I guess we'll find out from the Knights in the coming days what the scan results come back with. Hopefully minor and sort of that 2 to 3 week return to play range, but if he requires surgery, it's still not too bad. It's really come down in recent years, so about 6 to 10 weeks. Had a few questions about Starford To'a. He did finish the game. I didn't really see too much with him, but I guess we'll wait to see from the Knights what comes out. For Manly, we had Kieran Foran. What Des said was a cork, came off with a cork towards the end. But look, he was getting strapped for what looked like an MCL injury. So, Des, who knows what's going on there. He might have been playing Ducks and Drakes. There might be a bit of an injury there. Foran is known for playing through injuries, though. So it'd be surprising. It'd be both ways. It wouldn't be surprising for him to play through and, play through for the coming weeks, or it also wouldn't be surprising if he was dealing with a really significant injury and just kind of played through for the rest of the game. We had Ewan Aitken, another ankle injury. Look, he played out the whole match too. Once again, same sort of process as Bradman Best. Usually I'd say that's a good sign, but who knows with this kind of thing. So I think Nathan Brown sort of said, look, we might be missing him for a week or two, so we'll see what's going on there. One that just happened before, as I was setting all this up, Cody Ramsey, lateral ankle sprain, so different to your high ankle, syndesmosis injury mechanism. So usually with the high ankle sprain, the foot rolls to the outside with the lateral ankle sprain. So that's what a lot of you would be a bit more, I guess, familiar with like, yeah, you rolled your ankle. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who have rolled their ankle before, and usually that's the outside ligaments, so the lateral ligaments on the outside. They can look really nasty. So if you see some of these injuries, their foot almost turns at a 90-degree angle, and people think, oh my God, they're going to be out for ages. That was huge, but there's a lot of laxity in those ligaments, and it can be strapped quite well. So usually guys come back within, even complete tears. We've seen guys come back in 2 to 3 weeks. So that's one that I'm not as concerned about, really, unless there's a fracture there. And look, with the mechanism, it didn't really look like there was going to be a fracture present. So hopefully he's back pretty quickly for the Dragons. A couple in the New South Wales Cup, pretty nasty elbow dislocation, which I'm sure many of you have seen. That was, really nasty. I thought the guy, it was pretty stiff for the I think it was the Bears player to be sent off. Just one of those things. Look, I'm the biggest advocate for player safety, probably that I've seen, going around. But I certainly don't think that there was any intention there to dislocate the guy's wrist, the elbow. He just landed, unfortunately, and that it was just one of those things. So, look, if that's a clean one, pops in and pops out, which it didn't look like it was, but players can come back in sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks. But look, definitely concern there for ligament injury, significant fracture, that kind of thing. So he'll be missing quite a bit of time. Look, all in all, I think overall for around where we were sort of sitting there at the start going, these new rules, is there going to be heaps of injuries? That's not too bad. That sort of list of injuries there. If the worst that we come out with is a probably a wrist dislocation to Kieran in terms of time out. Look, obviously the concussion to Friend will be a bit, like we're not sure how long that'll take. But look, for all the concerns of what will the fatigue do, I was probably expecting a lot more muscular strains, and whether we see some come out sort of early next week, from the teams, who knows? But yeah, look, I thought that round, actually, there wasn't as many injuries as I was expecting, especially for the first week. Guys are still getting their feet. They only had one trial match. So overall, not too busy for me, but which is always good. So yeah, look, hopefully this wasn't too bad. Give me some feedback. If you thought it was good and you'd like me to continue doing it, it certainly saves me sort of going through and replying to dozens of questions about the same players over and over again. If you think it was a waste of time, also let me know, because it'll free up my Sunday night, which will be good too. So, but yeah, if you do appreciate it, I'm more than happy to sort of keep doing it, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes after the last game, just to sort of run through the injuries and my expectations moving forward. Hopefully I'll get a bit better at it moving forward. I'm not used to this kind of stuff, so hopefully it's of value, and enjoy your Sunday nights, guys.